Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Twist Gaming. We are here live at Gen Con 2018 with our continuation of our awesome live coverage and our amazing guests who are all out here at this enormous convention. I am joined here now with Jason from Horseshoe Games.
That's right.
And we are here to talk about your current Kickstarter. So before we switch over to the board cam, let's talk a little bit about the game. Let's talk a little bit about where the idea for the game came from.
Great. Hey guys, my name is Jason, like we just talked about. The inspiration of Thug Life came from growing up in bad parts of Los Angeles as a young nerd. And this is kind of like an honest expression that came out of those experiences. They always tell writers, write what you know, right? So I would give designers the same advice. This sort of thing just kind of came out. It's kind of weird how I became the Thug Life guy. Because, I'm not, thug at all. I don't know if you could tell. But yeah, that was the kind of spiritual inspiration for the game. And but in its bones, it's a mainstream take that experience. So the theme and the narrative are richly intertwined with the mechanics, but mechanically, it's a very snappy game. It doesn't kind of slog to tell you a story. It's not a role-playing game or a LARPing game at all. It's just kind of a hard school, almost 90s style Steve Jackson take that kind of game.
Okay. And before we head over to the board, it's just a reminder for everybody that what you've brought for me today is the prototype.
Yes.
Because you are currently on Kickstarter. You have 10 more days for funding. So because you're in this stage of the production for the game, these things are subject to some sorts of changes, and the quality of the components are not going to be what the final quality of the components are going to be.
Correct. And thank you for saying that. Yes, everything you're seeing here is a prototype, and to be honest, this has been my Gen Con and SDCC prototype, so it's pretty banged up. It's been through some stuff, but I like well-played games. I'm not too precious with stuff. I like to see things get played and get worn, and it's well loved if that's the case, right? Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm going to switch right over to the board cam, and this is Thug Life.
And as you can see here, we're set up for a two-player game, so it's not as robust as it could be in your on your table. It's a 6-player game. It tables, 6. You take on the role of bosses. You could play up to 6 bosses in the game. It plays in about 45 minutes. That's a real 45 minutes. It's not a fudge at all, right? Gameplay is very quick and snappy. You only get a few actions each turn. And here you see the 2 main play areas. You have the streets. This is kind of where your worker placement worker placement mechanic goes down. This is where you put your thugs in when you do bad stuff, when you commit crimes or pick fights. And these are your hoods. This is the little tableau builder here. It's the basis for your criminal infrastructure. So in our game, we feature 3 types of upgrades, which are rides, turf, and homies. I'm trying to find a homie right here. And the homies are my favorite. They all come with little signature
standees.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a very Southern California look, but I have to tell you, growing up in South Florida, this top button shirt look was really popular in high school.
Look at some of these. This is our tagger. This is everybody's least favorite uncle right there.
Oh, yeah. Look at those 80s pants.
This is Shy Girl. Spoiler alert, she's not very shy. This is Smiley here, not smiling. So in the game, you get 3 types of action. There are 6 types of actions. You get 3 actions a turn, and those actions would involve, you jumping in, so you get additional thugs that you could use to do bad things.
Okay.
You could play then after these thugs are the front of your hood is where you put your active thugs. You can place them in the street to grind dollars. Money is important. They're like little mini victory points. For every 3 of these you have, you'll get a bonus point of respect at the end of every round. I'm not sure if I explained the win condition earlier, but the object of the game is earn respect, and when you gain 13 respect, you win the game immediately. So we talked about jumping in, and grinding. You can also hustle, same mechanic. Put a thug in the streets, and you take a card. Upgrade is a type of action, but once you've upgraded your hood with these rides, turfs, and homies, they're free to use for the rest of the game.
So let me dive into, let's see what the upgrades are.
Sure. This is a ride, and rides can be used in fights and in crimes, just like thugs are placed in the streets to indicate they've been used and they're burned out. They can also be used to perform drive-bys, which can punch through hoods and win fights very readily when you have these.
Okay.
Fun for the whole family. The game is rated M for mature, so a lot of this stuff may seem a little bit inappropriate for children. It absolutely is, and probably shouldn't have your kids play it, right?
Sounds good.
It would be the same rules as a Grand Theft Auto or a Crackdown or any other video game in that
This
space.
is not the content or the topic. This is not a family game.
Correct.
And it's not meant to be.
I can't speak to everybody's family. There's a lot of families that will actually play this game with their families, but no, we're not marketing towards families or to children at all.
This is an adult game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's your homie Chico Slim. Draw 2 or take control of Mickey D's.
And Mickey D's is, one of his employees. This is the Executioner. It's like a fan favorite. People just love the name.
That's great.
So what else? Can we jump back into mechanics?
Yeah.
So I explained most of the actions. The last two actions that I didn't talk about were fighting and hustling. I'm sorry, fighting and committing crime. So when you commit crimes, that's the basic currency of Thug Life. We have crimes like moving bricks and mug and home invasion, this sort of stuff. Really nice things to do to people. We have tag. That's one of my favorites. It simply moves a point of respect around if you commit it successfully.
Let me see the tag card
Sure.
so folks at home can see that. So this is an example of what a crime card would look like. And can you talk to me about what the iconography here is on the card and what this means?
So that little black dagger indicates that that's a crime card, so you can identify it readily. And it's also meant to. I've spent a lot of time trying to make the game easy to access rules-wise, because there's a few moving parts. But that black dagger also indicates that it's black, so you remember you roll a black die.
Okay.
And the black crime die, again, this is a prototype, so we have sticker paper, but there'll be beveled dice in the final game. You're going to roll it, and there's a few different results here. You can gain more power to successfully complete the crime. And there's also a shield. And the shield means you're busted. It doesn't matter how much power you commit to the action. You are busted, now you have to fight the cops. And in Thug Life, since it is a take that game, and in the spirit of take that games, your opponent to your left is rolling the fight
Okay.
when you go against the cops. So
the fight die is your red die?
Mm-hmm. A fight die is a red die. So if we fought the cops, we both roll it. And then, there's also skulls on the red die, which are kills. And they function very similar to games like Blood Rage, where the kills are removed immediately and they don't add their power to the fight.
Okay.
So as a take that game, everything is very, very needling. You're always kind of, pushing and pulling against each other. When you take money or cards, you often take them from the streets, but more fun and more often you take them from each other. So if I sell drugs, I'm taking the resources out of your hand or out of your stash. And as the game moves forward, you'll start to see the power creep is very fast. So you start to get all kinds of free actions, and you're able to do lots of things to the whole table.
Okay.
And it's very clear the game's going to end very quickly.
And that's what you were talking about earlier, with it being a 45-minute game at
Correct.
a 6-player game, that it is a quick game.
Yeah, and right now there's been on our Kickstarter, we have 8 days left on our Kickstarter. We've unlocked a bunch of stuff. We're trying to unlock a lot more. This is, Kickstarter, it's all sweat equity, so that's what we're out here doing, right?
Pound the pavement.
Right, and it's fun. It's really great to bring the game to new players and new audiences. I especially love demoing the game for LARPers, cosplayers who really the game doesn't. I don't need to have people take on a role or doing that stuff. That's not in the bones of the game.
Right.
But with LARPers and cosplayers, they affect the roles very quickly, and it's kind of fun to watch it. And also old people, they always have like nothing to lose type of mentality, especially like in LA and Atlanta when we've demoed the game. A lot of older gamers are drawn to it very quickly, and they just get into the theme and they kind of embrace it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So the one thing I didn't get to show so far was their drama cards. If you're familiar with like Magic the Gathering, this sort of thing, they function similar to the old school enchant worlds. And can we see this up here? I think you can. Yeah. So each turn a new drama card comes into play, and they clear during our in-game mechanic called a shift change. Okay. But while they're in play, they change the game state for a short period of time. We have stuff like House Party and Cruisin', Dead Homies, a few other cards. These are the more happy dramas. There's also some more darker dramas like Riot, Gang War, and a few other things. Some of these aren't colored, so I'm not going to show them.
Let me see another color one just so we can get it up close. So here's the Riot card. And we're talking about, you mentioned this isn't about that some of those cards weren't in color. Again, this is a prototype of the game that'll be finalized. One of the important points that you wanted to mention as we show off this game and the art is the artist for the game.
Yep. And that is Roberto Anguiano. He's on Facebook as Sucker Punch. He's been my kind of partner in crime, both literally and figuratively, with this game for a long time. We grew up together, same neighborhood, same kind of youthful experiences.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and we spent our days playing Dungeons and Dragons to avoid playing, cholos and cheap shots, down the street. So gaming was always our kind of social refuge. and it's always stayed in our hearts and souls. And this kind of, it's weird because for me, this is kind of like reappropriating my own culture, if that
Right.
makes sense. But I'm doing it in a way to create a window, like a gaming window that, though not a narrative game necessarily, the narrative is so rich in the game, it does tell a story that people can paint on themselves with.
Okay.
It's really interesting. So the one thing, like when this game does catch any flack because of the theme or what have you, it's always because people are the game offers them a mirror, and they may or may not like
What they see in it.
what's staring back at them. Yeah. So that's not something that I had anticipated initially in the initial design of the game. It was something that just came out of several different play sessions. In particular, in I believe it was in MeepleCon, I had the opportunity to run it for a bunch of local cops, one of which who owned a game store. And you would think it'd be a very difficult conversation. They love the game. They were going crazy about it. And the one thing, and I hope he's out there, I don't remember his name specifically, one of the best things that came out of that session was they said, look, you in order for this to be a fair exploration, you need a black cop. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. So like all of the ethnicities in the game, there's a lot of flavor here. People are always like, there's no white characters, there's no Asian characters. There, in fact, is. You just have to look a little bit deeper than your 1 or 2 person playthrough.
Very good.
Because we have six basic gangs, and they're kind of crafted in a pretty democratic urban experience that we'd like to think really communicates to anywhere USA.
And you were mentioning as we were setting up and deciding which groups we wanted to play for maybe like a round or two, that half of your gangs were women, half of your gangs are dudes.
Yeah, and I love female characters, and I love female characters in video games and in board games and everywhere, frankly. And my partner loves to draw female characters more than the guys, right? So if I'm going to play a role-playing game, I'll often play a female character. So half of our starting player thugs are females, and the game is filled with female characters throughout. Not just as objects. I mean, some of them are scantily clad, but some of them are ready to rock. I mean, a lot of them are brandishing weapons and doing other kind of bad stuff.
Yeah, your tiger, and they're all. And I'm gonna
Sure.
take just like they're diverse. Like it's not the same kind of woman. It's not the same kind of dude. So you've got personality to these kind of characters, and I think that's really cool.
Cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about Kickstarter. We are seeking funding again right now. We just announced 3D rides. That's something that keeps coming up. Every time right now when you use your ride, you put the cart in the street, and that's just not good enough for a lot of our players. They really like the toy box aspect of it and the sandbox possibilities. So we announced on the Kickstarter, we'll be working on 3D rides, so you actually load up your guys, put them in the streets. So when they do bad things, you actually pick up the cardboard and put it out there.
All right, Jason, take me through a round of the game.
Sure. All right. So let's assume that I was going first.
Okay. I like that one because I have no idea what I'm doing.
And if I was going first, I'd be holding the big boss token if I was beginning the round. And the big boss token, it's unique in Thug Life in that, I'm not sure if it's unique, but one of our central mechanics is the big boss token moves around. So whichever boss has the most respect at the end of every round will become the new big boss, and they will go first.
Okay.
Right? So assuming I was starting the game, I would have the big boss token nearby. And the big boss also breaks ties. Anytime there's a dispute on the table as to what's happening, the big boss would be the one to determine who the winner was. So on a given turn, you have 3 actions, and they're gonna fly by pretty fast. You have a hand of 3 cards. The first thing I would do at the beginning of a fresh game is place a drama into play.
Okay.
In this case, it'd be called Dead Homies, and it's free to interact with drama cards. In this case, it's offering me the option to place 1 thug onto Dead Homies and gain respect.
So before you continue, one of my favorite things in games are quick reference cards, and I noticed that this is what I had right next to me, and I've been eyeballing.
Right.
So I can pretend like I know what I'm doing. Awesome. And I think it's the iconography that you've got is on. That's cool.
The backside, right?
All
Like
right.
I don't understand why all designers don't do that. It seems like the most elemental thing to do, right? You guys love that, right?
Tell me what
Cheat
these little
sheets?
icons
Help me out
mean.
here, yeah.
Something, man.
And then
All
the other
right.
thing too, if your rules can't fit on one cheat sheet, I don't know. Maybe you're not designing so good. So all right, so here we go. Here's a turn. So you saw me interact with Dead Homies. I went ahead and did that. So I would have gained 1 respect.
Okay, so are your actions limited by how many people you have out in your front?
No, they're limited to 3.
Okay.
And certain types of crimes. We have various types of crimes. We have tech crimes. We have what we're calling skin crimes, and we have just drug crimes. So the different types of crimes have different sorts of challenges, different sorts of rewards, and that's all in theme. And we embrace the theme pretty heavily in the game. And in that context, as you get your 3 actions, they can be spent to do single crimes, single fights, single upgrade actions, and including the jump in and grind and hustle stuff that I showed you before. So in this case, let's say it's my turn. I could jump in extra thug, so now I have 4. I could put one in the streets to grind $1, and I could put one in the streets to hustle a card, and I have 4 in my hand.
Okay, so that's your 3 turns, and then it's your free interaction with the drama card.
Yeah, and most of the drama resolve happens in the beginning of your turn, but they're all very different. So then my turn would be over, and I would pass it to you.
Okay, so our drama card, which is at the start of their turn, bosses may place 1 thug undead homies to gain 1
respect.
1 respect.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have the big boss card, so that means it's not free for me.
It absolutely is free.
It is free for me?
Yeah, this means I go first, and if there's any ties, I would resolve those ties. I would choose the winner.
So I'm still a boss, so I can still put 1 here to get 1 respect. And where's my respect counter?
Here in the middle, in the streets.
Okay. All right. And then I'm going to place, so my options out of there are I can jump in, grind, upgrade hood, pick a fight, or attempt a crime. That's easy enough. Okay, so I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to grind. So I'm just going to place 1 thug in the street and gain $1. There's my thug. Give me my money, more problems. And then I am going to upgrade my hood, because that's what I think is important to do.
So here, why don't you take, here's your turf. It's hot loads, and that's going to get your weapons back.
Okay. So I get to take up to 2 of the topmost of the weapons cards from the discard pile, if any, and flip this card face down when I get to do that.
And right now we don't have, since we just started, there's not a lot of weapons in the weapons pile. And at the end of your turn, you're allowed to discard up to your entire hand, and then draw back up to 3 cards.
Okay, so that was very cool. So here are some of the weapons cards here, the Molotov and the SMG. The submachine gun.
So let's jump forward and do a fight. Were you done with your 3 actions?
I am now.
All right, so here, let's do a little fight, right? So let's assume we're all in the streets, right?
All right.
And you have 2 guys, and I have 2 guys. And we have stuff in our hands. A bulk of the primary deck are weapons and crimes, but there's also the upgrades and all the special homies and all that stuff. And a lot of our stretch goals have been additional homies, which people love. We have a premium level where we can actually draw you into the game as a homie.
Oh, that's cool.
Or another piece of art. So that's been something that's been really fun. We're almost sold out of those. It's like, those went really quick. So let's get into a fight, right?
Yeah.
So I pick a fight with you. So I'm the attacker. I'm going to win any sort of tie that might happen, right? So we're going to go both roll our die. It's 2 versus 2, because let's say you were in the streets and I went ahead and just attacked you. It's that simple.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll that die.
You got a shield.
Almost. So I got a shield. So
Those are my 2 skulls.
if you had also rolled a shield, we would have both had to fight the cops. That's never a good thing. The cops are very high risk, high reward, and when you lose to them, they wipe you out.
Okay.
In this case, we just put another cop in the streets. We're making trouble because I rolled the shield. So I have 2 power versus your 2 power plus these 2 kills. Yeah. They're both gone.
Bye.
And you'd gain respect, I'd lose respect, and we'd continue. Even though you're the defender, you'd still earn respect from winning the fight, right?
Very cool.
And fights are that simple. They're also that simple when you fight against hoods, but you have +2 to defend against the hoods.
Okay.
And that's where the rides come in, because the rides provide drive-by bonuses, which you ignore that defense bonus when you attack. So
very cool.
Yeah, this is our fault. We did this. We did make this game, and it's self-published. So we realize we're the only people crazy enough to publish something like this. But we're really, really leaning into it, and we know we're just kind of changing hearts and minds 1 table at a time. I've yet to have a toxic table. I've yet to have one. Everybody that's engaged with the game has been extremely positive, and we've demoed for a couple thousand players in the last year and a half.
That's awesome.
So it's been really great. It's been a really positive experience, and we've been everywhere. We've been to KublaCon, we've been to WonderCon, we've been to I've been to CMON a couple times, and I also have a day job, so can't go to every single convention.
Right.
But it's been a great journey with the game so far, and now to be able to finish so strong on Kickstarter feels really good.
That's awesome. So you have 8 more days left on Kickstarter.
8 more days, yep.
And you have a couple of the premium levels still available.
2 available right now.
What are the pledge levels?
So it's $1, and for $1 you just simply get a print and play. I think it's called like a boss. That's the name of the pledge level. And then for $40 you get a copy of the game. You get mostly everything you see here. You're not seeing 4 of the other hood tableaus. And for $500, we'll put you in the game. You work with our artists. I'll create a mechanic that's customized for you, and you will live forever in this kind of street edition. We're not going to make a lot of these games. Probably make about 500, maybe 1,000 if we're lucky, and that's it. Then they're gone. If and when we do an expansion, it'll probably be a similar print run.
Very cool. Jason, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for bringing me out.
For coming by and showing us Thug Life. Best of luck on the Kickstarter. This was really cool to get to, I've heard about it, and it was really cool to be able to get it to a table and get to see it firsthand.
Thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
Same here. Thank you. And thank you guys. Stick
Bye,
around
guys.
for some more great Gen Con 2018 coverage. We'll be right back.